Horizontal Digital Integration, or HDI. What is your HDI strategy, and why does it really matter to you right now in the home buying and selling ecosystem? That's the topic on today's episode of the Digital Disruption Podcast, brought to you by Novus Strategy and Consulting with Pete Gatenby and myself, Chris Williams. HDI strategy, Pete.
Yes, mate.
Why is this important?
Well, look, we talk about it a lot. It's a key theme, but importantly so. It's not something that we talk about for the good of ourselves. It's actually a key enabler for many organisations across industry, not just this industry, but particularly right now in the home buying and selling and mortgage journey industry that we obviously exist in. It's very much on the front of everyone's mind. Everyone's talking about looking left and right of themselves at the moment. How do they collaborate with other players and other actors in the ecosystem? And actually what we're learning, the more and more actors we talk to, is that they've hit the capacity of that optimization that they can get within their little silo, within their little world, within their little organization, often quite large organizations, but within that organization, within their little journey, they've hit the limit of the optimization. There's no more efficiencies to be gained. There's no more kind of new revenue to be found and new growth to be found. And actually the greater opportunity, or the lowest hanging fruit, is now sitting left and right of them. There's great opportunity around them. And so everyone's starting to look, how do we collaborate? How do we become interoperable with other players in the market and really start to realize some of those benefits, both internally and externally?
For those watching, listening, I think most people would be familiar with HDI now.
Yeah.
But I think we should probably recap on it just quickly. So HDI is horizontal digital integration, and it's the concept or ethos of taking, irrelevant of the of sector, taking a journey, a customer journey, which usually happens from left to right, that passes through multiple stakeholders, multiple digital ecosystems. It can be e-commerce, it can be insurance, it could be home buying and selling. But essentially, that digital journey needs to be frictionless and seamless, because if it is, we can speed it up much quicker. And HDI is a concept that essentially enables interoperability. So this is where dispersed, fragmented stakeholders essentially are able to become a connected ecosystem in order to drive efficiency through the process. That's HDI in a nutshell. And we essentially put HDI front and center in the mortgage journey, because this is one particular industry where HDI's not yet evolved, but we're at a pinnacle point where HDI is now being adopted, and it's an underpinning strategic pillar to essentially speed up that transaction process. Yeah.
And I think it's important to note that we're not saying that people haven't done collaborations before in this industry.
Nope.
They definitely have, and it's something that's been happening for a long, long time. But the difference right now is that journey from start to finish, i.e. I wake up today and decide I want to buy a house, all the way through to getting the mortgage, going through the conveyancing process, going through the settlement and lodgement of the title deed, and actually moving into said house, is so complicated these days that there's no unifying theme that goes throughout for many, many organizations in this space. And actually it's something that everyone's talking about. It's like, how do we go broader? How do we touch the case further higher up in the journey? How do we continue to support the completion if you're a broker, or even if you're an estate agent? How do we support that journey? Because at the end of the day, and this is the crux of the matter, the customer, the end customer who wants to buy the property and move in, is waiting. They want to move in as quick as possible, or at least speed up the process and have a bit more predictability about when that might happen. But equally, most people in the process actually don't get paid until the completion happens.
Yeah.
And therefore, it's in everyone's interest to speed that up and increase the likelihood of that happening, because there's a lot of lost money in that process.
Well, before we get into the HDI strategies, because we've got internal and external strategies, which are key takeaways for people watching and listening to this, before we get into that, let's just touch very, very quickly on, you just mentioned something there, fallout rates.
Yeah.
So now, in the latest edition of the Digital Disruption newsletter, Ash has written an article about efficiencies and some of the fallout rates. And the detail in there was pretty clear that, look, I think even by the numbers that we'd got in there, you were talking almost 500 million.
Yeah.
These are big numbers that if you could stop this in the final kind of third of the process, a lot of people fall out. And if you could cut that out and move things up front, it's a big, it's a big deal. 500 million is a lot of money.
That's not going into the economy.
Yeah. And there's more there. There's ancillary stuff. I won't get into it. If you're interested in the numbers, Ash has done a very good job of it. Get yourself signed up to the newsletter and it'll get sent out to you. It's a physical copy. But let's talk about the HDI strategies now, because this is crucial, because HDI can improve revenue opportunities. It most definitely will streamline things and therefore make improved margin, but it will also massively, significantly improve the simplification part of this process. So what's an internal HDI strategy?
So an internal HDI strategy is really anything that streamlines an internal process. Typically, we're talking about efficiency and effectiveness here.
Yeah.
When there's a few kind of areas we really look at in this space, it's typically around technology and the workflows that sit within. So if you're a lender, right, the underwriting process is a really good one.
Yeah. So basically, what is that workflow?
Yeah, exactly.
And how are those dispersed internal systems? Where's those handoff points? Where's the manual bit? How do we basically increase the workflow capacity and efficiency through, digitizing and connecting those things horizontally better?
Exactly. And the big thing here, where that HDI strategy comes in, is the interoperability and often in the data flow to get data in the right place for the internal teams to take the next action, or the internal process to take effect. So you can build up those data silos at the right time seamlessly. Honestly, how often do we talk to lenders and they talk about a manual process where they have to almost wait for a job bag to be populated before someone can pick it up? It's stopping that, so that it's a much more seamless process. You get that throughput, and that efficiency really rings through. A lot of it comes down to creating kind of really clear data-driven layers. This then unlocks other things, that maybe AI-driven initiatives, and obviously it's a big part of the practice that I do, or it could even be just kind of making sure it's in the right place at the right time, as we mentioned.
So moving from an internal HDI strategy, there's two parts to this. We've got internal and then we've got external. So in summary, internal is all about making sure that you've got those internal workflows seamless, connected, and that's then going to lead you to the external HDI piece. Let's talk about sort of the external HDI bit, specifically for lenders. Let's talk about it through their lens for the moment.
A lot of it, when it comes to external, is about those strategic partnerships. Who is it that you're either going to be working very closely with to either A, bring in new business, or B, actually offer value add services to your customers? And so there's a number of things that could be. It could be that you have a conveyancing panel that's you're working very closely with that you can hand off to seamlessly, or equally it could be that you're integrated into some of the broker CRMs. And I know obviously all the lenders have clear strategies that sit around both of those. But if you can look even further up the chain, perhaps goes to the estate agents, and therefore how do we identify the opportunities earlier so that we can start to pass the data back into our mortgage origination platform, if you're developing out a DIP, so that actually the services that can be offered there to a buyer or someone who's looking for a mortgage really, really early on.
Well, it can even advance customer acquisition strategy, can't it? I
Absolutely,
mean, if they're connected that far up the chain, they can see, would we even lend on this property? Does it meet our lending criteria? And if we've got searches and things like that, we understand it. This just makes that flow. If you're in that space quicker than somebody else.
Exactly.
So this is kind of, I guess what we're saying here also is this importance, like you started out on saying there, is who are your partners and have they got an HDI strategy? Because if they haven't and they're not more open, are you going to end up in a closed loop environment where you can't actually leverage this stuff? Yeah.
And the big thing is, we're talking to a lot of lenders now that have got green products coming onto the market. Now, why we talk about green products and a HDI strategy? Well, actually, a HDI strategy unlocks green products really, really quickly, because 18 to 90% of properties that are not new properties have had a search in the last 10 years. they've also, with all of that, you've got EPC ratings are also being constantly updated. If you can hook into those, and you're hooking into the estate agent listings that have to list EPC ratings as part of the listing, then suddenly you've got the ability to identify customers who either A, might have behaviours that tend towards green lending, but also you can identify who you could, what properties you could possibly even lend on from that standpoint. It's just the ability to unlock this lateral thinking that's never really been able to happen before for lenders.
I think you use a really good phrase there, unlock.
Yeah.
If I think about some of the, whether it's workshops, presentations, the stuff that we do a lot behind the scenes, the message that we really are giving to a lot of people in this ecosystem quite simply is HDI unlocks potential.
It does massively.
And we're able to kind of prove this in sort of key areas for key stakeholder groups. And it's that unlocking of potential, both short, medium and long term. I think that's probably the big takeaway really, isn't it? HDI unlocks potential now in the medium term and then also into the future. And to get on it and start them, the sooner you start to do this stuff, the better, because it's not coming, it's here.
Absolutely. And I think to help any player in the market get ready for it, you need to start thinking about what those collaboration frameworks look like.
Yeah.
How do you collaborate with people? How do you partner with them? How do you get around the table? Where are you involved in the conversation with other actors in the ecosystem? Who do you know? What are they doing? What's their initiatives? Where's the synergies? Where are they not? Because not every partnership's going to be right for everyone, but there are going to be those key partners that if you've got a framework in place to identify them, be able to start to collaborate quite quickly.
Yeah, makes sense. So let's give listeners, watchers some takeaway points. I think for them to actually action and go and implement. I think one of my big things would be bit of a shameless plug, but it would be actually we did a workshop, a webinar on this. Go and download it. There'll be a link to it on our website, novus-strategy.com, and go to the webinar and watch it. The deck actually that we used is downloadable there.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
That'd be one of my big action points, because we hone into HDI, what the potential that unlocks, and you do a great bit all around the AI piece and the data flows that enables. That'd be my first thing. I think the second big takeaway for me would be actually begin to understand what your HDI strategy looks like and take it seriously. Because it's a bit like your digital strategy. If you haven't got a digital strategy, you're kind of not, it's not the done thing.
Yeah.
But it's also not sort of smart for business.
Yeah.
And I mean that genuinely. Get a HDI strategy and start to think about that. What are the pathways to build your HDI strategy? Go and watch that webinar. It'll give you some real good pointers and takeaway points in the framework. They'd be my 2 bits. What about yourself?
Yeah, I echo that for sure. And equally, look into the marketplace. If this is new for you, look into the marketplace and see where you can get involved. Obviously, we're involved with the various groups, but there's lots of steering groups out there and committees out there who are bringing players from across the ecosystem together. DPMSG is a really good example of that. Kind of look for these groups, begin to get involved, and start your collaboration framework to understand almost who your target collaboration partners are and how you'd like to engage with them and almost what you want to get out of it. And that needs to tie back to the core objectives of the business. What is it you're trying to achieve? And once you've got that, then you can have really meaningful conversations quite quickly.
Perfect. So that concludes this episode of the Digital Disruption Podcast, all about horizontal digital integration, or HDI. If you'd like to find out more information, as always, don't hesitate to get in touch. But we do invite you to go and download the webinar that we ran all about HDI and how that can benefit your organization. Just head to novus-strategy.com and onto the webinar section there, and you'll be able to gain access to it. For now, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you again next time.
Thanks a lot.